The latest official statistics show 358,370 households contacted their local authority for support after being threatened with homelessness or losing their home in 2023-24, up more than 10% in a year. Of these, 324,990 were assessed as homeless. Record numbers of households are living in temporary accommodation in England. A total of 123,100 households were living in temporary accommodation in June 2024, a record high and 16.3% higher than a year ago. The number of households with children in temporary accommodation rose annually by 15.1% to 78,420. The total number of children living in temporary accommodation has now reached 159,830. Dr. Laura Neilson, the chief executive of Shared Health Foundation, a charity supporting families in temporary accommodation, said, "It should be shameful that more than 159,000 children will be living in temporary accommodation. It should be a national conversation, an embarrassment the government tackles head-on with urgency. Yet it remains a fringe conversation." Shelter analysis found 354,000 people were experiencing homelessness in England in 2024, including 161,500. That included 16,600 single people living in hostels or other homeless accommodation. Overall, an additional 44,500 people were experiencing homelessness in England in 2024 compared to the year before. The official rough sleeping snapshot revealed 4,667 people were homeless on England's streets in autumn 2024, based on single-night counts and estimates by frontline workers and local authorities. That figure represents a 20% increase in just a year and is just 2% lower than the 2017 peak, when 4,751 were recorded as sleeping rough. It's also 164% higher than in 2010 when the count began. The London-only combined homelessness and information network, CHAIN figures, are considered to be more accurate than the official one-night count. The most recent annual count showed 11,993 rough sleepers spotted on London streets between April 2023 and March 2024. That's a 19% increase on the previous year's total and 58% higher than a decade ago. In January 2025, a quarterly count showed a 5% increase between numbers recorded through October to December 2024 when compared to the same period in 2023. Women are often missing from rough sleeping counts because they tend to be less visible than male rough sleepers due to the risk of violence on the streets. That means women are more likely to seek shelter in cafes, transport hubs, or other places rather than bedding down outside. A coalition of homelessness and women's organizations in London joined forces to tackle the issue in October 2022. Their first national census across England found the number of people sleeping rough could be as much as 9 times higher than the official rough sleeping count. In the 41 areas covered in the census, frontline teams found 816 female rough sleepers compared to just 189 covered in the official count. Experts believe as many as 5,000 women could be missing from official rough sleeping counts in England. 4 out of 5 Brits think that homelessness is a serious problem, according to an Ipsos poll for the Center for Homelessness Impact at the end of 2024. The poll, which quizzed 2,142 people on their views on homelessness, found 70% of those surveyed agreed that homelessness doesn't get enough attention in society. Most people, around 2/3, believe that homelessness will increase in the UK over the next 12 months, while barely a quarter think homelessness can be ended, and twice as many think homelessness is inevitable. But 79% of Brits told pollsters that identifying people who might be at risk of homelessness earlier, such as in health and education, would make a difference. Ligia Teixeira, chief executive of the Center for Homelessness Impact, said, "These survey results highlight the pressing need for bold, preventative action to address homelessness. With over half the public supporting investment in prevention and 75% calling for affordable housing and stronger government guarantees, the message is unmistakable. Prevention and structural solutions must take center stage if we're to break the cycle of homelessness for good." While the numbers reveal the scale of the challenge, they also reflect a shared belief in the power of prevention and systemic change. This is a call to action for all of us, government, communities, and individuals, to work together to ensure everyone has access to a safe, stable home. A further Ipsos poll from St. Mungo's found more than half of Brits believe there will always be significant levels of homelessness. In the UK, pollsters found that the main reason people have not given their support to others facing homelessness came down to a lack of cash, food, or clothes to donate. That was the case for 29% of adults, while 23% said there is no point in supporting people experiencing homelessness because they feel it won't make a difference. London remains one of the most expensive cities in the world, with living costs that continue to climb. The city's population is 9 times larger than that of the second largest UK city, Birmingham. But the number of available homes has not kept pace, leading to a chronic shortage of social housing. In fact, a quarter of all households in England waiting for social housing are in London. The competition for homes drives rental prices up. London has the second highest rental prices in Europe. 183,000 Londoners, including 90,000 children, are in temporary accommodation. That's about 1 in 50 people in London, and at least 1 child in every London classroom. Studies show that where rent is over 32% of the average income, homelessness rises sharply. In London, the average person spends half their cash on rent, leaving little for other necessities. A Londoner is forced into homelessness every 8.5 minutes, a staggering statistic that highlights the urgency of the housing crisis. No-fault evictions rose by 52% between September 2023 and 2024. More than 5 times the rise seen in the rest of England and Wales. The government has set an unrealistically low cap on the financial support available to Londoners, forcing many to divert funds for bills and daily living costs to cover rent. Due to this cap, some individuals cannot claim their total housing allowance. The number of people sleeping rough on London streets has tripled over the past decade. Currently, 46% of the UK's rough sleepers are in London and the southeast. The average age of death for a homeless person in the UK is 45 for men and 43 for women, compared to the national averages of 79 and 83 respectively. 6 London boroughs rank among the top 14 areas in the UK for homelessness-related deaths. Official statistics reveal that 82% of rough sleepers in London are men. However, 2/3 of the hidden homeless, those sheltering from danger by sofa surfing or sleeping in public transport, are women. Reports suggest that the actual number of women experiencing homelessness may be 9 times higher than government figures indicate. While inner boroughs like Westminster have historically recorded the highest rates of rough sleeping, there has been a noticeable shift. Street homelessness is increasing in outer boroughs, particularly in West London, where Ealing has reported some of the highest rates of rough sleeping. This reflects the spreading housing pressure Londoners are facing. Living standards in the UK have plummeted due to stagnation in income growth over the last 15 years, new research has found. The National Institute of Economic and Social Research claims that the poorest parts of the UK are now poorer than the poorest parts of countries such as Slovenia and Malta. In real terms, incomes in the majority of European regions have grown at a faster rate than the UK. If the UK economy had continued growing at the trajectory it was before the financial crisis of 2008, UK households would have been nearly £2,000 richer every year. 1 in 4 teachers spending own money to feed hungry pupils as parents struggle with costs. Millions of universal credit and disability benefit claimants turn to food banks. I'm terrified of cuts. Brits feel just as poor and miserable as they did last year. When will things get better? NIESR researchers have also found that the British welfare system is among the least generous of developed countries. The UK is 3rd lowest for the value of benefits compared with average wages, when ranked with all 38 countries which are members of the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. Max Mosley, senior economist at NIESR and main author of the report, said, "The uncomfortable truth our report has uncovered is that economic stagnation over the past decade is now threatening the UK's position as a place for a high standard of living. A combination of weak productivity growth, driving near zero growth in real wages and cuts to welfare, has resulted in a situation where we are neither delivering prosperity through high wages nor security through welfare. The report finds that the welfare payments do not cover the cost of essentials. It only covered the cost of essentials in 2 of the last 14 years. This was during the pandemic because there was a £20 uplift to universal credit each week. Research from the Joseph Rowntree Foundation in Trussell shows that universal credit currently falls short by around £30 a week. That the poorest in our country now fare worse than those in nations once considered less affluent is a stark indictment of the UK's economic social model. Reversing this decline will likely come to define the government's growth agenda, Mosley added. NIESR is urging the government to ensure that benefits cover the cost of living with an essentials guarantee. It estimates that the cost of this would be £6 billion, but it would raise the incomes of the poorest households substantially and boost the economy by alleviating pressure on public services. It also argues that the 2-child limit and benefit cap should be abolished as the most cost-effective way of reducing poverty. Removing the benefit cap would cost around £2 billion per year, but would reduce the number of people living in poverty by 1.7 million, the NIESR claims. NIESR experts additionally recommend that the government increase both public and private investment, particularly in training and skills, and that it establishes an institute focused on growth and productivity. Professor Adrian Pabst, Deputy Director for Public Policy at the NIESR, said, "The government's mission to grow the economy is not just about aggregate numbers, but about higher living standards in every part of the country. Given the dramatic collapse in the living standards of the poorest 40% in society, it is vitally important to raise public investment in ways that unlock business investment to generate productivity, increases, and sustained real wage growth. The government should revisit its decision to delay the uprating of the personal income tax threshold until April 2028. After more than 15 years of real wage stagnation for millions, working families need to see a tangible improvement in their living standards over the duration of this parliament."